My name is Ethan Carter. I work as an architect and I was assigned to reconstruct a certain place where I stumble upon a lost childhood life. Everybody tends to lose their memory of their past as they grow, hence I don't even remember what I usually played. I guess hide and seek or tag, the simplest games that I bet I didn't play often as a child. Even so, I don't remember anything, especially as a toddler. The only memories I have of my past are mostly my parents, my school life, and work. For me, it didn't matter if I didn't remember anything. Memories come and go. In life, everybody has to say, keep moving towards the future, because the past is history. They're old news we need to forget in order to make space for fresh new memories. Am I right? That's what everybody says. Honestly, no matter what, life is still complicated. I do have a stable job, but it's really stressful with my boss who keeps stressing me out. My relationship is in a tight spot. We fortunately managed to keep it steady for now. My mom and dad, I really wanted to explain my problems to them, but I didn't want to concern them so much, so I decided to keep my problems to myself. Honestly, I've really wished that life could have been simple and clean. I don't understand why we have to make everything so complicated. It makes me feel stressed and nervous, like I want to tear out my hair from my scalp. That's when my point of view changes in that single night. Like I said, I was assigned to reconstruct a house, which is my old house, where I as a child mostly grew up. It was a simple bungalow, complete with a garage and a swimming pool. I don't know why we had to transfer, but I guess my dad had found a new job in the city. When I looked at my old house, it had really aged a lot, from bright white to dirty gray, and the plants started to grow around the house, covering it with green everywhere. I went down in front of the entrance and wasn't surprised when the door didn't budge. I gave a quick look inside. Everything was completely empty, dust was floating around, and the sunlight was peeking through the dirty window. I managed to open the door by pushing a bit further. I stood there, observing everything, and started to imagine how much the place had changed. There was nothing inside, but the more I looked, the more it reminded me of how the furniture was originally set. I walked around. I was supposed to inspect for any environmental concerns or waste mitigation factors, but I got so distracted reminiscing about those times that I lost myself in my thoughts. The kitchen where my mother cooked a variety of delicacies came to mind. Out of all the food she cooked, my favorites were the chocolate chip cookies. The living room, where my dad and I wouldn't stop watching TV all night long, flashed in my memory. The bathroom, where I always looked at the mirror, putting gel in my hair and trying all different hairstyles, reminded me of when my father used to scold me for using the bathroom too long. The bedroom, my sanctuary, held great memories, but I couldn't shake the feeling of sadness when I looked at it. It reminded me of someone. I don't know why, but I feel like I should remember, yet I can't. No matter how much I think, nothing seems to help. I returned to what I was supposed to do before and checked again every room. The last was the attic itself. The roof had a handle, and when I pulled it, a ladder formed, giving me access to the top. Inside the attic, aside of a set of dust floating around, it was full of abandoned stuff, either vintage broken furnitures or unopened boxes. It was hard looking around. I then pulled out my flashlight, giving me a perfect view of everything. Everything seems to be normal until there was something that caught my eye. In the distance, there was this box, with my name written wide open with black marker. I was tempted to go and get it, so I submitted and went to grab it. The box was sealed with tape, but what was weird was that it was sealed from the inside. I grabbed my pocket knife and cut it open, delicately slicing the tape without damaging the box. Inside, there was a bunch of stuff, baby clothes, lost pictures, and lots of toys. I dug out until I reached something that shocked me for a moment, a small white teddy bear. It wasn't in good shape, but it brought back a bit of my memory. I only remembered that I played with this toy, but nothing else. I didn't even remember what name I gave him or who gave it to me. As I was cleaning the stuffed bear, it suddenly started talking, and then I remembered. It's been so long, yet so long has passed. I remember the time when I was made, where after I was finished they put me in a store to be sold, where my only purpose was to play with kids until they grew up. Knowing this, I wanted to leave this place so bad, because we are only objects with no emotions. Even so, I really hoped someone would treat us like a friend. But I realized so many kids were only interested in other toys. Rarely had I seen them buying our kind of stuff there. Either they bought a different brand or a different kind. Apparently, there weren't any great reviews on our brand, but I don't think that matters, right? We are toys. It all depends on the children. Every day, there are always children entering this market, and they are always interested in other toys. Nobody bought our type, not one. Perhaps children's tastes have changed, or perhaps we are too expensive. Whenever a child looks around the market, they don't stop to look at our department or comment about how boring we look. There was a child who asked the staff if we are remote control or have other interesting mechanisms. Every time they say no, they immediately leave. Time passed and no one bought anything in our department. The staff member noticed that our department was left intact. It seems today's children are more interested in video games. While I was waiting, I noticed someone looking at us through the window. It was a man in a well-dressed suit. I've seen him a couple of times, and every time he leaves while calling someone on his phone. Who was that guy? I overheard that the staff received a call from his boss stating that they received a message from the company who made us, and that sooner or later they have to discard us. Don't tell me that man who was staring at us was someone who works for the company and that he was sent here to check on our progress? I felt afraid and a slight feeling of disappointment. Seriously, isn't there at least one child who will buy us? One day, a couple of men came in with empty boxes, ready to discard us. I was afraid. I've seen so many toys being bought and then discarded and left behind. But this time, nobody bought us. We were made, and now they are throwing us away? I don't know how, but I managed to be the only one left behind. They took the rest, but left me. The staff noticed this. Instead of bringing me to them, he just placed me far away, behind the other toys. Then one day, that fateful moment where my life has taken a huge detour, a man came into the store. It was a bit difficult to know who he or she was at first. I thought it was another child, but due to the tone of his voice, he was slightly older. I heard footsteps growing steady as he came closer to my direction. He was standing in front of our department, and I noticed he was removing the toys in front of me. It was the same man from who was staring at us from the window. And when finally found me, he suddenly grabbed my box. I was terrified at first. I thought that this man is here to finish the job and throw me away. Instead, he brought me to the cashier. I was confused on why a man like Ethan Carter would buy something like me. I noticed he wasn't accompanied with a child, so maybe he bought it for himself. I thought he was too old. But then he asked the kind cashier to wrap me in a present. Is that where I realized I was a gift? The man bought me for someone, but for who? Time passed, and I was still inside the box, but that's when I hear a child giggling. Then the moment finally came. Somebody grabbed the box and removed the wrap, revealing a cute little boy, smiling with joy while receiving me. I can see his parent watching their excitement on seeing their child overjoyed. The little boy's name is Ethan. And from that day forth, I've became his greatest friend. The man who bought me was there, and he is actually Ethan's older brother. At first I thought that Ethan would at some point lose interest in me. Instead it didn't. In the span of 2 years, I remember that he would always play with me, bathe, sleeping, even eating. I have to tell, he is the most heartening kid I've ever seen. He always done everything with me and also for me, but there was something he still couldn't figure it out. He didn't know what name to give me. Honestly, whatever name he would give will always be special. For example, the name suggestions were either Max, Peter, Captain, Hero, Rocket, Lightning, Thunder, Crash, Sonic, Robot, and many, many other spectacular names. Until one day you finally decided to settle with Nina. I was confused on the name decision, because it doesn't seem to fit with the imagination that Ethan gave, until I realized the name was from your very first friend in kindergarten, Nina Bridge. You were always playing alone. I was always there for you. But we couldn't talk to each other or play properly, except for Nina, the only friend who came and played with you. So I accepted the name you gave me with pride, without being ashamed of, knowing how much important she was. Every day it was me, Ethan, Nina, and the man who bought me. By the way, the man's name is Benjamin. He definitely brings joy to others, not only to his parents and I, but to every people who lay eyes on you, there's always a bright smile whenever they see you. But that joy almost crumbled apart. In one specific night, it changed Ethan Carter's life. His brother Benjamin, the man who introduced me to his lovely family, sadly passed away to an undisclosed illness. It was shock from everybody, including for poor little Ethan. Nobody expected this to happen. It was a complete surprise. I've never seen Ethan so sad. There was a time when he decided to lock himself up in his bedroom. I never thought he would act like this. He may have lost someone, but he knows he has to move on. His brother wouldn't like to see him in this state. I just wished I could move so I could cheer him up, and I did, well, not exactly the way I thought. He is lucky to have parents like them because they brought me right to him. I couldn't say what I wanted to say, but when he held me in his hands, his tears halted, slowly gaining his smile again. His tears of sorrow changed back to tears of joy. From that day, Ethan decided to rename me. From that day forward, I carry the name of two of the most important people in Ethan's life. I felt like a real person. My full name is Nina Benjamin. Step by step, he started to attain the happiness that he almost let go of. Ever since that day, he started to treat me more and more like a person, bringing me everywhere, a lot more than before. I wished I could express my gratitude in some way, but maybe just being there is frankly enough. Everything was going really smoothly until the day we unknowingly parted ways. We both thought everything was fine, but crossing that bridge was the greatest mistake. I remember that moment when I felt the pain of being separated from you. I physically didn't feel any pain, but emotionally, because of you, Ethan, I didn't want you to be in the arms of sorrow again because this time I wasn't there. I saw you desperately trying to get me as I was being taken by the river. You followed me, but we lost each other afterward. I found myself stranded in the middle of the sewers, all empty and all alone. Every day, I was always thinking about your well-being, hoping that you wouldn't lose the smile that gave me hope, hoping that you would move on, keep moving forward. Time was going. I don't remember for how long I was in the sewers, thinking, hoping for Ethan Carter's happiness to keep shining. Until one night, a strange event happened to me. In the small opening that connects my world and theirs, a light started to shine intensely. I didn't understand what it was, but a small ball of luminescent entity, glowing white and azure, came through the hole and flew around me. When the light suddenly faded, I felt something inside of me. My arm and leg started to twitch, and slowly I gained the ability to walk. I didn't understand what happened, but I had a feeling that someone else was asking me to go and find him. I felt someone's deep brotherly feeling, and I then realized it might have been Oliver's brother. He gave me the strength, the motion, and the determination. I walked around, left the sewers, and set off on a journey back home. It was a long road, but nevertheless, I kept moving. Difficult times came with difficult measurements. In the end, I finally reached my destination. I was glad that I never gave up and that I finally got a chance to see you again. When I came back, they were putting boxes inside a truck, and I realized they were about to transfer. Things started to get complicated when I was getting near the door. My movement started to slow down, and I ended up laying on the ground, motionless. I completely lost the ability to move and was laid on the front porch. To make it worse, a man put me inside a box. I thought maybe I'd see you again this time, but apparently, I was put inside one of those boxes to be set up in the attic. I was sad, and I felt a short pain inside of me when somebody grabbed the box I was in. I heard a familiar voice that made me feel emotional. It was Ethan's. His voice had deepened a bit, and I could feel his presence. From his tone of voice, I could tell he had indeed moved on. He grew up and changed, but even so, he was still the Ethan I knew. Now here am I, inside a box, in a house they no longer live in. The only thing they left is not a toy, but a memory of a forgotten childhood. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and months turned into years. Inside the box for decades, I waited a long time until suddenly the same ball of light from the sewers came in and gave me my motion back. I was finally able to move. I opened the box and found myself standing in the middle of the attic surrounded by old furniture and boxes. I didn't understand why I was able to move. Was my goal to find Ethan again? Honestly, I don't think that's the actual reason, because now I don't know where Ethan is. The last time I heard him, he was already older. Maybe he has already forgotten about me. I looked around at old stuff and newer pictures. I'm happy to know that Ethan and Nina are still close friends. I guess even more than just friends, based on the picture I was looking at. There were school reports, proving how hard he worked throughout the year. He even made new friends, and I'm glad for Ethan. Looking at his old picture, I realize how lucky I was to be chosen that day. Maybe the ball of light had a reason for me to gain my motion. As I was walking around, a small glimpse of light caught my attention. Something inside the box was luring me. I went and grabbed the box and opened it. Inside, there wasn't anything aside from the old black suit of Benjamin and a diary. I grabbed the diary and read what was written there. It was Benjamin's personal diary, mostly about his life. Until I noticed drawings of a teddy bear. The title says, "The Perfect Toy for Ethan." It was stacks of pages with all different design and color of me. Benjamin used to work for the company who made us. He created me because he wanted to do something special for Ethan. For all this time, I've always had a purpose in life. I wasn't built for any child, but for Ethan. He knew that one day he will pass away, so he created me for the purpose of keeping Ethan's happiness intact. Before everything, I thought it was luck that I got chosen. In reality, it was truly destiny. From the very beginning, I had a true purpose. It made me smile so much that I was really glad to have spent with everyone. After reading the diary, realized I was losing my movements, so I ran straight to the box and sealed myself in with the Ben's diary. I used to be afraid of being abandoned, but now not anymore. I was happy, I was glad, I was honored. I was the light for Ethan, and he was my light. No matter how long I'll stay here, I was glad that I served a purpose on someone else's life. I lost track of time, maybe because I didn't care anymore if nobody remembers me. As long as I have those great memories intact, I will always be happy. Time passed until somebody came back and broke my chain, and there he is, a man with a familiar face, and that's when I realized it was him, Ethan. From a little boy to a man. If his brother was here, he would have been so proud of him, knowing how much he progressed. Dear Ethan, you have grown so much, you have matured a lot. I hope you don't lose your ambition once I'm gone, that you keep being strong. Now you are an adult, but for me you are still my dearest little friend. I'm glad I met you, and I hope you keep smiling like always. Spread the hope like you did to me, the person who gave me a name, a life, a reason to be alive. You gave me a reason to believe. Our love will last forever. Thank you. The monologue ends there. I looked at Nina. After he finished talking, it felt like his soul left right before my eyes. For all this time, he was waiting for me, to give me his last message. Oh, Nina. Suddenly tears started to flow down my face. I shed a tear looking at my stuffed bear. I hugged and I smiled. Life is indeed difficult, even between a child and an adult. No matter where I am, where I stand, it will always be complicated, but nevertheless, you always have to move forward. You can look at the past, but it's going to stay a history. Hugging my toy, it felt like hugging both my brother and Nina. You have taught me something that I relinquish. It was hard saying goodbye again, but this time I will do it with a smile. Thank you for giving me the courage to be me. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Nina.
Welcome to Velvet Girl YouTube channel, where you find quality stories to listen online. Please like, subscribe, and comment below to help us grow and make more of our content. We love you all.